Hey everyone, it's Sonia here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are just about to kick off episode 141, and lucky for you, it's a heart to heart. So today's heart to heart is all about courage. And for those that are brand new listeners, whether you've caught this through falling down a rabbit hole, or Sharon sent you the invite, or I did, or you've been listening to other episodes, welcome. You're going to love this podcast today. It's all about courage. And the reason why it's all about courage is because Sharon is the queen of courage. So, Sharon, please take a minute to introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me, Sonia. I am a behavioral scientist. I brag that I'm 75. I live north of Seattle, and I am a retirement and spark coach. So I want to help you discover your inner spark and live from that, because when you live longer, you live healthier, and you have meaning and purpose in your life. And that's what we're here to do.
At any age and any stage, that's exactly what you and I and thousands of other coaches and mentors and leaders and even managers at work, the right ones, are here to guide you to that next spot in your journey. And like I said, it doesn't really matter which age or stage you're at, you're going to find so much relevant information in this particular series. If you are a boomer, lean in, because there's going to be some good things that you're going to pick up today. And I loved what you said behind camera, Sharon. You have two choices as a boomer. Can you educate us what that was?
What was
You
that
have
again? I have
two choices as a boomer. Can you remind us what you said to me?
that is probably to become bitter or better.
Yep. Yep. What happens
So,
when you become bitter? Oh, you got
yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah. So you become vile. In fact, I make these little art blocks, and I don't have the one I would like, but they basically look like this. It's just that. I was looking for something like this morning. That's from a book called the Shack. That you either keep a couch potato, and at Boeing, my last job said the myth was, if you're not when you retire, you die within 3 years. Yeah, it might take 3 years for a couch potato to die, but instead, I want to engage the untapped potential of retirement gives us to help you live from your inner spark, that mystery that's inside of you, instead of looking out there for that what other people want. You're going to be more satisfied and live longer when you're living from your internal motivation instead of external.
Absolutely. So we've got two choices. We can become a couch potato when we retire.
Yeah.
And sit there and do nothing and perhaps die within 3 years. Or we can thrive. We can continue to move past the point of just survival and start thriving. And I loved what you said about the potential is in us. We have all of the tools and resources that we need in order to step into that light. Can you share some of those tips with our audience today?
Well, yeah, let me say that your boss may not have allowed you to contribute from your heart and job. Now in retirement, that boss is not there anymore, and you get to live from your heart in retirement. And that's where your spark is anyway. And so one of the steps for connecting with your spark could be listing 20 things you love to do. Yeah, why not live from what energizes us, what we love to do? And I like to say that just because you're retired doesn't mean you're invisible. Some people struggle with that, but you still have your education that got you through your all these colleagues that you developed over the years of your career, and your talent. Some of your talents might have gotten dusty. If you were a dynamite trombone player, you haven't touched that for a while, but that doesn't mean you're not a dynamite trombone player. So yeah, some of our things need to kind of be dusted off and finding your do you do that?
Say that again. I just lost you for half a second there.
Finding your spark helps you reconnect with that spark inside.
And it's so much more than that. And I want to say you had brought up you brought up a question or a point that was brought to my attention not that long ago. So, we're talking about boomers in today's episode, but I want to take this holistically back a step because boomers could be I mean, there's an actual definition for boomers, right? What is that, 65 and older?
Boomers are people born from between 46 and 64.
Okay.
So the years, I was born in 47, so
Okay.
I'm one of the early.
Okay, so that there's the generational right there, 1946 to 1964. If you fall within that category, you're quote unquote a boomer. So the thing is, the children of boomers are probably going to be listening to this episode from where I'm coming from. I am going to challenge you the exact same thing that Sharon just said. List 20 things that you like to do, but do yourself a solid. I was given this challenge the other day from my coach, and I realized something about myself. I'm seeing if I can find my notes here, but it's irrelevant if I can't. What I discovered, I could not answer that. I am a life coach. I could not answer that question. I had to sit with that question for over a couple of weeks until the answers came to me. And I was able to create a list of 5 things, but there were more categories. So there were more categories of things, and there's things within those categories that I could do that brought joy to my life and that made me happy. So whether you're falling into the boomer category or the Gen X category, which is the next category or the next demographic underneath the boomers, I was born in 73. So just to kind of give you an idea, the children of the boomers, right? Because my folks are the same age. They're 76 this year. So ask yourself that same question. I don't care who you are. This information applies to everybody, even the misters listening to this. Ask yourself that same question. If it doesn't bring you joy, if it doesn't bring you happiness, why are you doing it? And it's one thing if you're working full time and you're trying to put a paycheck on the table and food on the table, and that's the space that you're in right now. But opposite that, if you're a boomer, you have time, baby. You've got nothing but time. So go ahead and give us some ideas, Sharon.
Well, let me say that when I have security and insurance, that days are productive. I hate wasting things. I felt like, if I wasn't, then I'm wasting time. And I found that I had put my essence state as a wall hanging behind, and came over one day and read it 3 different times. Realized that when I lived for my spark, every day felt my values. And from when you're living from your intrinsic values, it every day feels good. So and I started realizing that I was living from my core, from really what mattered to me. And the how I was taught the inner spark, they actually called it essence. And when I realized living from my inner spark and essence, I was living from the core, authentic me. How cool is it to live from your authenticity? And I guess that's kind of a popular word now, and maybe people don't really understand or what's that all about. Well, it's kind of like my mom would say, um, if you're telling a bunch of lies, you got to remember who you told the lie to, or you're sprinkling half truths out there like a pillow that's been bust open, all the feathers are, who knows where you're have to pick up all your pieces that aren't the truth. Well, living from truth is the best life there is. So I'm not sure if we're still recording or not.
We are. I just minimized my video because you were feeding in and out, and I thought I would pop back in once just to see if that made a difference, and it did. It actually did. So I liked how you said that, at the very end of the day, it's a spark and joy within us, 100%, and we slice bits and pieces of ourselves to everybody else. And I was reading something today when I was going over my cards, my oracle cards that I like to reflect on in the mornings, and a really good component came up. And it pretty much was along the lines of, I'm just checking my book, but it was pretty much along the lines of, when I put myself first, the universe also puts me first. When I put myself last, the universe puts me last. And that brings up a point that I wanted to share with you and get your perspective on for the amount of conversations that you've had. I know for a fact that when somebody's on their deathbed, they are full of regrets. And the things they are full of regrets are the things they didn't get to do because they didn't have the courage to follow their heart. I would love to hear your comments on that.
Well, in fact, I on my YouTube channel, I did a series on in the Queen of Courage about the 5 things you must discover before you die. And it's written by I think the name is John Izzo, Izzo. And yeah, those regrets, there's 5 main things. And I know through my career, there was a couple things that I took a lot of courage to do that didn't seem to pan out all that well, but I felt it was important to follow the message that I was hearing, and so I did. But other cases, I didn't have the courage to wait for the career that was perfect for me. I just, you got to pay for the house and the car and all that, and so you just making nose to the grindstone and do what's necessary. But there was another thought though. Oh, when you're living in return with all this free time, you get to live from your heart and what makes you happy. And I think we've gotten so mundane, go to work, and eat and sleep, go to work, that what's in our heart is so far back behind us, we've forgotten. I know one day I'd been gone for 2-3 days on a weekend. I came out here to my patio. As soon as I got my suitcases in the house, I watered my plants out here. And oh yeah, that makes me happy. And as I was carrying my water out there, and the other aha that was, I have a couple, what do you call it, ground cover plants that just is the hardest thing to keep alive. Oh yeah, if you're not growing, you're dying. Hello.
Isn't that the truth? If you're not growing, you're dying. And we tend to stop growing at certain stages of our lives, don't we?
Yeah, I put a lot of time into getting my master's degree and all those steps because I did it on free time. I went to college 1 year, and all the rest of the time it was nights and weekends. So you're focused on your studies and on. Good thing I like learning, but yeah, there's times when the focus. Well, I forgot to get married.
What?
I am 75 and never married, and and yet that before I retired, that was I started being in my radar again because I'd like to share my free time and my next season with someone that we could make each other happy. So yeah, there's times we get too busy.
We get too busy and everything else becomes a priority, and then we become last. And then we wonder why things are manifestations, or all of the work that we're doing isn't coming to fruition, or it's taking longer. We've given up saying it's not happening, but in reality, it is happening. It's happening based on your ebb and flow. So, where would people start to tap into what would make them happy or bring them joy?
Well, kind of like you did, you start asking it and see what comes up. You know, I when I worked on, I had to go to coaching class on first day with my assignment of my 20 things and my 5 goals and dreams and wishes in about 9 different areas of life. And I walk people through that process in my course. But they see, your question again was
How to get somebody to spark that creativity so they can figure out what it is that brings them
yeah.
happiness and
So
joy.
I'm kind
Yeah.
of like, I think of it as putting that question on the back burner. I ask myself 3 what do they call it, 3 questions to my subconscious, and when I'm getting out of bed every morning. Uh, and,
Okay.
and it's like, I think it's giving your subconscious a task to look for what makes me happy. And then that, while it's cooking on that back burner, slowly bubbling, that it will, because you ask, your subconscious will help you find the answers.
Yeah. I agree. And you're right. I had to sit with it for a couple of weeks. Now, in the meantime, I kind of avoided all other mindset work besides something that was simple and such as reading, but any kind of learning in that realm, I couldn't do it because my brain capacity was already subconsciously working on something else. But it's an interesting point, isn't it? Once you learn who you are and you learn to ask the question and surrender to it, it doesn't matter the age or stage you're at. It matters that you take action and do the work and not sit there and say it's not working because you're looking for that spark. Can you tell everybody why they need that spark?
Well, when you live from the spark, DNA, GPS, whatever you want to call it, essence that was in you when you were born, the satisfaction, fulfillment, contentment flows from there. It's what matters to you. And the one of the other lessons I learned that's kind of connected with this, right after I retired, about 4 months later, I was on a class. They called it mental, how to have mental strength. And the guy said, when you're facing some anxious moment, then before you go into meeting or meet that person, then stop, recall a warm memory, and hold it for 15 seconds, then go into your event, and it will go much better. And I thought, well, my warm event I recalled when I was in 3rd grade in its Christmas program, and I taught myself how to be a good reader. My job was to be a reader of the program. And about 10 days after this little teaching, I thought, why just have one warm memory? Why don't I see how many I could come up with? The list of 8 or 10, 12 things, half of them were in front of people. Had I been in the wrong career? I was shocked. But that's where I found joy. Something touched me in those moments that touched me deep, deep in, down to my belly button, kind of thing, that it mattered to me. And that little teaching on mental strength helped me to be where I am today, in that I becoming an influencer was kind of important to me. And I've never called myself an influencer before, but I started taking baby steps as maybe that's what I'm here to do. And that's just since I retired.
And how many years has that been now?
6 years, almost 7 years. Yeah.
Excellent. And tell us, share with our audience the different ways that you influence people, your modalities.
Oh, I pretty much do a one-on-one, and well, right now I'm doing one-on-one, but I've just created a course that I'm in the process of um, trying out with 5 or 6 people to make sure it's got all the content. But I have both teaching and some in between the weeks. I send you an audio version of having triggering your mind to some more ways to think about what we just covered. And then we wrap what you love to do and all your hopes and wishes and dreams and your values. Who talks about values? But they're so key in finding your purpose. And then we wrap all those nuggets that we've come up with, what's Sonia all about, and put it into a metaphor. Well, my metaphor, I was in Dallas, Texas, and I went to an art fair. The first weekend in May, they have an art fair around the stadium. And way back in the back corner was a geometry teacher turned jeweler. Well, I love unique jewelry. And when I put on his jewelry, his rings, something moved in my gut.
Was it a crystal of sorts, or
he used you know precious jewels, and I don't know, the stone wasn't so important to me, but he calls them stackables, and I took them off and put them back on again, and something moved in my gut again.
wow?
Well, his sets of stackables, ran about $10,000. So we walked from there and said, okay, this will be a goal. It's on my dream board.
Yeah, I'm curious. Did you ever get it?
Not yet.
Not yet. That's okay. You got plenty of time, right?
So when it came to needing something to, out in the world that I could put my finger on, and that's, that speaks, that item kind of represents me. So I had used those rings as a way to describe how I contributed to my work team. The value and the sparkle and the quality and the excellence. Well, now when it came to a metaphor for my essence, I use those rings again. And so what came up was my inner spark is I am precious jewel of wisdom.
Nice.
I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires.
Say it again.
I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I'm tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires.
Beautiful. And those were based on your value, sparkle. What were the other two? Oh, I lost you.
Yeah, values, and the 20 things you love to do.
Yeah.
When I shared that with our class, that we all had to stand in a circle and read our essence, the spark statement. And I felt like I had just shared my soul. Nobody had ever asked me to do that before. And it was such a precious moment. Number of us kind of choked up as we read it because it was so unique. And that's how God made us, is unique.
It's true. So if somebody were to take their values, what makes them sparkle, so the 20 things that bring them joy, their essence, and mix it all up, they should be able to get to the essence of their soul as well.
Yeah, that's the main role I want to help people with, is to discover your inner spark. So because when you're living from what matters to you, you realize that you can flow from inside to your world instead of letting your world tell you who you ought to be when they don't know what's inside you.
And that's a perfect segue for some of the questions I have for you that I like to hold on to, because the only way you can flow to others, literally, is by overflowing yourself. And we've heard the proverbial, keep your cup full, put your seatbelt on first, put your mask on first. We know this, yet most of us don't apply this because we don't know how. Or we might think that working with a coach is expensive, or whatever limiting beliefs that we have. And I'm going to challenge you all to think differently right now, no matter your stage or your age or where you're at or how you're coming across this. Think differently right now. And here's why. People are still shopping. People are still buying. People are buying cars. People are buying groceries. People are on vacation. You don't just need to take my word for it, but pop into social media and you can see all of these things happening. There is success in your role, and my role. I want you to think differently, not just what's happening to you now, because you cannot manifest change from your current position. You need to start acting, thinking, visualizing, feeling like your future self, which is what Sharon was talking about bringing the feelings into this. So the best way to bring the feelings in is to start living like that future self. So we can be on our deathbed and not having one regret in our life. So Sharon, I'm going to ask you 4 questions. I go over these with every single one of my shows. It always looks different. Okay. But when it comes to you living your best life right now, tell me about the mindset piece to that.
Well, let me tell you what happened yesterday that just really touched me. Okay, so I imagine you've probably talked to your guest about loving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very hard to do and takes a lot of time. But yesterday I decided to go through, actually, I guess it was Saturday. I went through the house and about 5, 6 times I was just hugging myself as a way to generate those feelings of feeling loved and God loving us. And since I haven't had a gentleman to love in my life, I need to love myself. I used to think I had to wait for somebody to cherish me. How about cherishing yourself? Well, by the end of the day, I met somebody down here at the waterfront on the beach. She had just come back from Hawaii for 10 years and was enjoying the sunset. And before we left, she gave me 3 hugs.
I love that. So you showed the universe what you wanted, and you showed the universe first by delivering it to yourself. And that right there is the most magical thing that we should be doing every day, showing people how to treat us. And you got a marvelous hug. 3 of them. 3 of them.
She gave me a new idea for what I could do with my career, because she works as she says she works on boats. Now, how she works on boats, I assumed it was a mechanic, but she could have been something else. But she knows the people who go on these yachts and spend a time out there, and I could be a speaker on them. Travel.
If you need extra speakers, you let me know. Because boomers need to take their daughters with them on vacay. And I'm a really good entertainer, and I'd love to have fun with you on a boat. So that invitation's out there for the world to hear. So guys, we talked about mindset there, and I loved hearing how Sharon physically shows herself what she needs. And it's not just what I loved about this is it's not the typical affirmation journaling, this or that. It's a physical component, which is really important. Okay, the next thing, when it comes to meals and nourishing your body, what are you doing now to help you live that spark of life?
And this goes back to the main question, I guess, too. The first one was, I decided 30 years ago to stop having fear. Well, and part of the mental strength principle is you control your thoughts. And controlling your thoughts for me meant no fear. Well, that's been difficult the last 3 years. And but look at how young I look too, because
exactly.
I have no fear in my life.
So no fear. I love it. I love it. How does that impact your food?
Well, I'm still one of my 3 lofty questions was the word I was looking for. But my first question is, and it pertains to food: why am I incredibly beautiful, slim, and confident? Well, I'm confident pretty good. I'm not slim, and it's been a long time since I've been slim. But I just, even this morning, I thought because I hugged myself and got some hugs, I think I'm trying to tell myself, love yourself more than food. And
Mm.
I like chocolate a lot, but I want the dark chocolate because there's not as many calories. And it's healthier for you, but I'm starting to ask myself, am I willing to love myself more than chocolate?
I love that. I love that because we do take food over and over again as a way of punishing our bodies. And our bodies are not the reason why you're frustrated in this particular moment. So, but why do we take it out, either physically, emotionally, on our bodies? Right? I love your answer there about loving yourself more. And do you love yourself more than that bite or that taste or whatever it might lead to? All right, movement. What kind of movement do you do?
I love going for a daily walk. And in the winter, when it gets dark so early, it's really like start. So with spring coming on, the daffodils are starting to come up and bloom. My on my walk, I take in my pocket some biscuits to feed the dogs, and that's where I get my kisses.
Okay,
But I
kisses from the animals.
yeah,
And you,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
But I watch for the crows. I like to whistle at the crows, and I don't see very many squirrels unless it's getting close to dark, and the squirrels show up at dark. But I pay attention to what's blooming and what's going to seed, and what's changed. So that's and I usually do at least a mile or more.
Beautiful. And there is walking itself is an amazing mindful movement. It doesn't have to be any more or less than that. You can just still be listening to a podcast or a book or music even and enjoy all of the sights and sounds and good feeling. When it comes to mindful walking, like you were saying, there's so much you can see. And it doesn't matter where you go. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I actually call it my mental health walk. It used to be the dogs. And then I'm like, no, actually, I need it more than they do. And it's not about steps, it's not about calories, it's just about taking a step away. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest, it's -2 Celsius, which is 29 or 25. Hang on. 29 degrees Fahrenheit with freezing rain. I am not going today for my mental health break. But I disconnect. Sometimes I'll talk to a girlfriend, but visually, there's so much more I'm bringing in. All right, your last question. How has your relationship with money evolved, or the stressors that bring you close to that feeling of anxiety that comes to money? How do you handle that?
Well, I don't know that I have an answer to that yet, but I've been this last 5 or 6 years since retiring, I've been planting seed. Whether I make money or not, I am going to share my message and be an influencer and trust that the payoff will come. But recently, I've like in the last 2 3 months, I've said I easily easily attract money. But and before I get out of bed, I say I um I'm praying for abundant harvest for the seeds I've planted. And um and along with that, the lofty question is, why am I a millionaire?
Ooh,
So, but along with wealth comes my third lofty question is, why am I surrounded by so much love? And it can be love from people like Sonia and other platforms I've been on as a guest, or it could be the love of a mate. But to see and realize that everybody might be a contributor to you of that love. This lady that I met from Hawaii, she just blessed me with all kinds of love this weekend. So, but to recognize that love is flowing in around and through us, all of us, and receiving that. I remember being in church one time, and I felt like I was an eggshell, and that if anybody came up to me and said boo, I'd wind up on the floor. And so I gave hugs so I could get hugs. So that was my way of taking care of me that day.
Wow. So impactful. Guys, you've heard it here. Sharon, I want to confirm you're 74 years old, right? So, in case you all didn't know when you're listening to this, Sharon, a 74-year-old influencer, has the courage to show up not only on an audio format, but on a video format, looking so youthful. She's happy, she's radiant, she's healthy. She is working on living her best life. And the biggest takeaway I took out of today, well, there's two. There's two pieces I've taken out of today. And this is a great reminder. Givers gain. She just got through saying that she was sharing hugs because she needed hugs. She was looking for abundance, and yet she paused and realized how much love she had in her life. It can look differently. What you have showing up in your life right now is every single thing that you have asked for. But don't expect by doing a little bit of work, whether it's visualization, stepping into the feeling, listening to music, that you're going to switch from your current vibrational state to the top one where you're manifesting. You're only going to move bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. This takes patience. This takes trusting and surrendering in that harvest that you have planted, knowing it's going to show up at the right time. Courage. It takes courage. And I am going to chime in for one thing. Most of you know that I co-wrote a book called The Power of Yes. I did a chapter in here. This was my very first network marketing book that I did. But this year that I did this was the year that the world came to an end as we knew it. My personal training studio got shut down overnight. All of my income went from 5,000 to zero overnight. And this is when I started my podcast. This is where I picked myself up again. And Sharon, this, thank you. This isn't the first time I'm sure you've heard somebody's story. And, somebody that's coming to the table completely different than you. I've had 2 divorces. So I've had multiple quote unquote failures in my life. I've worked for very many companies where I wasn't a fit at the right time because, like you, I have the courage. I am looking to do this. Thriving, not just surviving. Just like you're helping your clients. So if anybody wants a copy of this, let me know. I can get you a copy of the story, or we can talk about that. Sharon, what offer do you have for us, if any? But if not, just direct us to your website because I know you've got some fantastic offerings.
Well, I do have this 3 tips to creating a new life after retirement, and that shows up on my effortlessvitality.now.site, SITE. And my book is available on Amazon, Fresh Courage in Retirement, Finding Essence, Purpose, and Fulfillment. And it kind of gives you a lot of resources in there, but it makes you hungry for finding your spark, which is a course that I'm launching now. And I on Facebook, I'm pretty active on my Sharon Rolph page. Lots of inspiration there. And YouTube, if you just search Sharon Rolph, it will come up with my Queen of Courage. Most of my Queen of Courage tidbits are out there too.
Guys, did you hear that? Like, she's on socials and she is kicking ass in this world as an influencer. When how many people that are 75 years old are sitting on the couch? Or they're complaining that life sucks. I have 2 parents in that same age bracket. And I know there's been some stress and some health issues as it happens. But life is so worth living. We're gonna have these details of how to reach Sharon in the you're gonna find everything on the YouTube page, and you're gonna see it in the, what is the word? I'm losing my train of thought. Show notes. There we go. In the show notes for the podcast episode. So this will be going live and on YouTube on the exact same day, same time. So, guys, Sharon's contact information is going to be listed right here in the show notes. I'll have my contact information here. And don't be surprised if you see Sharon come up in your feed because you've taken a look at this beautiful soul online.
I want a tidbit. One of the results of having no fear, no cancer, no diabetes, no. I've never been in the hospital overnight, never.
Wow.
And I'm glad to report no fear makes a better life.
Well, you know what? We can all learn it too about that because so many of us are living in a state of anxiety or we're living in a state of depression, wondering what is, what was, versus what's going to happen, instead of just literally living in the moment. So I have one takeaway, and if you know this, I'd love to have you join me. Wiggle your toes. Wiggle your toes and see what happens.
Oh, wiggle.
You can't
Yeah.
wiggle your toes and worry about anything else because you're focusing on wiggling your toes. You automatically smile because you're in the moment.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to either one of us. We'd be pleased to answer you and to point you in the right direction so you can too be the queen of courage. Make it a great day.